before?
Yes, we have.
Okay. All right. Meeting of the City Commissioner workshop. What are we calling this? This is a workshop, right?
Special meeting.
Special meeting. Special meeting of the City Commission. We'll come to order. City Clerk, if you'd call the roll, please.
Mayor Owen.
Here.
Vice Mayor Hartman.
Here.
Commissioner Colodi.
Here.
Commissioner Sacks.
Here.
Commissioner McGurk.
Here.
Thank you.
All right. Gentlemen, the purpose today is hear presentations from two different strategic planning consultant services that have joined us today. The first up, I believe, is Community Solutions Group. So we'll hear from them first, and then hear from the other group right after that. We've had both proposals in the agenda package. I'm sure we've both had a chance to review those. So look forward to hearing their presentations, asking the questions, and yeah, so any opening comments by staff, or just dive right in? All right, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much. Good evening. My name is Pete Seckler. I am the director of GI's Community Solutions Group. I've got Laura Smith with me. Laura is in our economics group and actually has a background in both planning and economic projections and demographic analysis, and we'll probably talk about her skills a little bit as we go forward here, particularly given the handout that you just put out. I think this actually plays right to Laura's strengths. So this is a little far, but I think I know what's on my slides. So I want to start by introducing who I think the core folks are that are on our team that we're proposing to work on this. Myself, Blake Drury is our director of planning. Laura, I mentioned in our economics group, Patrick Panza, who handles a lot of data and statistics with us, and then Wes Schaefer is a young planner. We have a much larger group, though. Our Community Solutions Group is about 35 people. We have a lot of resources across a lot of different disciplines, and depending on exactly where the city wants to take this project, we've got a lot of forces we can bring to bear. The way that our practice works is it's really a holistic kind of community planning practice that kind of starts with community visioning, but takes things through implementation, both in terms of physical implementation, design, engineering, and so forth, but also regulatory implementation, and then finally economic development and financial and funding mechanisms, and even rate studies and bond studies and things like that to fund projects. So it's a pretty full spectrum practice. So we all sit together and talk about how to get communities moving in the direction that they want to go as a unified practice. The way that we do that is we undertake assignments like this, and we sit down with folks like you and the community and staff and so forth, and we figure out where we can find alignment. And I think that's one of the toughest things with communities is just getting everybody pointed in the same direction, at least around some key things. And I think we're pretty effective at identifying things that are of common interest, pulling those out, articulating them, and moving folks in actionable directions. I'm going to move kind of quickly here because we've only got 10 or 15 minutes, then we're going to do Q&A. But the objective for this project, I think, is really in part a blue sky effort about what's really important to New Smyrna as a community going forward, but to do it in a way that has your feet on the ground, understands sort of the real world that we live in, both the opportunities that we have as well as some of the real world issues that we have here. And then, as you noted in your handout, is finding ways of setting goals, setting objectives, and finding ways of benchmarking and measuring how we're doing over time against those critical things. The process has kind of got two broad steps to it. The first part really has to do with a lot of focused input at different layers from the broad community, as inclusive as possible, getting down into staff leadership, and then ultimately yourselves to sort of vet out what's really working well with the city. I know the RFQ mentioned a SWOT analysis, so doing some exercises to pull out some clear sort of apples to apples input between various cohorts of folks, and then bringing that back to you in a way that's understandable, that can be measured and discussed, and we can start to set goals and parameters about whatever those topics are and how we want to deal with them going forward. The second half really is about this kind of workshop with you on December 12th, and then December 12th? Yes, December 12th. And then working through the holidays and into January to sort of collate that information into a set of understandable ideas. We'll review that together and then refine it as we go into the winter. So looking at all these steps, this is sort of a handful of steps that we think kind of align with what's in your scope. This is what we put in our approach. It's what we put in the scope that we sent Carol Wimmer a week or so ago. And basically what it does is it's simply an initial look at how to kind of have an ordered approach to the things that you've asked to have done, which is the one-on-one meetings, the community public involvement things, leading to the workshop and so forth and so on. We're very comfortable that we can facilitate these conversations and get you to outcomes that are understandable and discernible and measurable going forward. To kind of highlight a couple of things about our approach, just a couple of quick comments, is I think one thing that's going to be important to how we do our work is we do want to organize, as we start to get information, we want to organize input around thematic ideas that are of particular common importance. And then around those thematic ideas, we want to identify things that we can measure both people's perspectives and perceptions of, but also benchmark change over time in the form of report documentation, or however we want to set up a framework for how you want to monitor your success against the vision over time. One of the reasons that Laura is here is that she has been leading for several years now a function that we do for the City of Orlando called the Orlando Downtown Markets Report. And this is something that we produce every quarter, and we now have it for several years, so you can really see trend lines. And it covers all sorts of different market-based, economic development-based, and demographic-based data about the entire downtown CRA for Orlando, which is actually a pretty big, pretty diverse place. And the CRA is able to use that to kind of benchmark how they're doing and also how they want to negotiate with different types of development opportunities to come to them. It helps them understand where they are, where they've been, where they're headed. And so Laura is particularly adept, I think, at helping organize those kinds of efforts. The other thing I think is particularly important about this is, this project has got a very fast schedule to it. I don't think there's any doubt about that. So this is about, how quickly can we get the conversation going and how focused and high energy can the conversation be. And one of the things that we have been doing more and more in our group is, and we're just putting this out as a suggestion, we're happy to do another technique, but rather than sort of the large, everybody comes to a meeting and you sit at tables and there's exercises and you fill out the form and talk to people, and then at the end there's a big, Phil Hartman thing, passing the mic. I can certainly do that. We have certainly done that in this town. But what we've really been getting a lot more success with, and we think it's particularly relevant right now with the holidays coming up and people's time being precious, is we are using a technique that's more sort of game and station driven, and this is coming out of our park system planning practice, where we have a lot of people that are coming in. They want to quickly interface. They want to interface in a way that's interesting. There's things that we can set up through technology that allow us to get direct data and information from people. For instance, one of the things that we do is a GIS-based technique that you see in the upper right here called story maps that lets people immediately locate a specific address where they live, where they work, places that they like to go on a GIS map that we track the entire database, and they can enter information right there in real time digitally. So what we found is when people come to meetings like this, we can give them a little passport. They can go to different stations, do different exercises. They can quickly give us the input on things that are most important, and then they can leave. Sometimes we'll bake in a short presentation kind of on the front end of that so that people kind of know what the project is about. But we found that, people come to us and they really just want to tell us what's on their mind. And if we can give them some cues about sort of how we want the information and some key things that we want them to kind of respond to, most folks are actually really happy to give the information and then either stand around and talk and interact with us or just be on their way. And we think that with the holidays coming up, we think this approach is particularly pertinent here, and I think it would be successful here. Again, we can do a more traditional technique, but this is something that we've been particularly successful with. The other kind of message that I wanted to leave with you, again, given that I think this is high level, This is an important moment of kind of setting direction. I just wanted to point out that I think this is a function that we've done several times in the past. We had a very intense body of work that we did in the 2010 timeframe to do the CRA update for New Smyrna's downtown CRA, and that resulted in a lot of things that you see going on around town now, including abstract ideas like branding the loop, all the way down to specific things like the Brandon Center and some of the development ideas that you see out here. That came out of that work. We have done blue sky workshop sessions at the former city manager Pam Brancasio's request to just facilitate these kind of SWAT sessions and direction setting sessions. And then most recently, a little over a year ago, I guess it would be 2 years ago now, right? It was late fall of 2017. The city came to us looking for some assistance to kind of provide format and structure to a whole set of ideas that ultimately became the Coastal Community Resiliency Program. So we helped set that program up as a set of topics that the city staff then ran with and executed over the balance of the year. And so the picture here on the right is me facilitating the kickoff meeting. So we certainly can do the big meeting and MC the large meeting, not a problem. The other thing that's going on is, I think because of the history of our interactions with the community, I feel like we know the community from the sense that we understand what people value about New Smyrna Beach. We understand what maybe some of the legacy debates have been around town in terms of the evolution of the community. And so I think we're in a position to kind of look at the city holistically. I think this is primarily a listening and focusing assignment for us. But as we listen and hear what people are saying, we know how to put that in the context of the full form of the city, including the waterfront sites and the traditional town and the river and the beach that New Smyrna is so well known for, but also looking from the water's edge back into the city and understanding the historic neighborhoods, going back to the A1A, the West Side neighborhoods, the development along 44, and even the development that's happening in sort of the ex-urban areas out towards 95. I think that we have a handle on what all those place types are and kind of what some of the discussions in the past have been. And I think that we can listen actively and listen intelligently to the things that people are telling us as we start evaluating different objectives that the community may have. So with that, I'm going to close and just, I closed on this shot this is a wedding scene in New Smyrna. And I guess, I was looking for like what's a good closing photo, but I think, again, to be concise, I think the purpose of these kinds of events is to create a big table for everyone, to have a seat at the table for everyone, and to set a platform where everyone has an opportunity to be heard. And then our job is to help you interpret what we think it means and focus what we think it means into something that you think that you can carry forward strategically. And that's what we want to help you do over the next couple of months. Thank you so much.
Excellent, thank you. So we'll go to commission questions here in a moment, questions or comments. So just a couple things to go over first. So from a quick time check, I was going to try to give approximately 30 minutes each. We did start a few minutes late, so we'll go shortly after 5:30, try to wrap up if not before. And then we're really not making a decision today. This is our chance to get to know them, to ask questions, and then at the next meeting is when we'll make that selection, is my understanding. So you agree with that?
6:30.
Yeah, the next meeting tonight. The next meeting in order of.
The next meeting, which is
Yeah, this is my second of 3 today. So yeah, when I say next, I mean the very next meeting is 6:30. Yes. So, and then the last thing I wanted to just clarify for everyone and the commission as well, that he referenced a document that I gave them a copy of. I left a copy of for you all as well that I'll talk through, and that is these KPIs at Winter Park. So, but we'll get to that. So, Commissioner, comments or questions?
None. Not at this time.
Ooh. Are you getting better or worse?
Fair question.
It's been like that for a week now, it seems like.
I quit my day job and decided I'm going to be a baritone operator.
There you go. Yes. Commissioner Sachs.
No, thank you, Pete, and your team.
good. Thanks.
Commissioner Colodi.
I have questions.
Okay.
Strategic planning is a very, very wide subject.
It is.
Your particular focus, as you see it, for New Smyrna is what?
The way that I'm interpreting this assignment, and I'm happy to be focused and corrected here as we look at the document that was passed out. But the way that I'm interpreting this assignment is as a goal-setting exercise that includes community involvement, but also specifically department heads and this leadership body to talk about what's working well in New Smyrna Beach, what can be improved upon in New Smyrna Beach, and what are the things that we strategically want to try to move the needle on. And if we want to move the needle on those things, how do we want to benchmark and measure advancement over time? So I think that when I said earlier, I think that a large part of our assignment on this project is about active listening, and it's about interpretation, and then it's about setting up measures and benchmarks that are understandable and usable over time.
Would you say your focus basically would be towards planning and zoning, comp review, comp plan review?
Actually, I would say, well, comp plan review, I think, provides context for this, because I think that the things that we would be talking about in this assignment would ultimately flesh out in the comp plan. I think from a planning and zoning point of view, I think that there are things that we will be talking about in this project that are at a fairly high altitude, and the execution of what that might mean to changes in planning and zoning are probably a subsequent step to this. This process may inform something that you want to address in planning and zoning as a subsequent step, but I don't think going in and actually changing language is part of this assignment the way it's defined in the RFQ.
I would agree with you on that, because there's certainly not the budget to go into the detail that you would need to do that.
Sure, yeah.
But obviously, that would be an important component of it, to make recommendations for that
Absolutely,
line.
yeah.
You do have a lot of background from the resilience program for last year.
Right, and what I would tell
And
you...
we don't have to do that over again.
Correct.
But would you dip down into things like the city staffing levels and that type of budgeting information? Would you look into any of that at all?
I don't know that is explicitly noted in the RFP as a request or a requirement of the project. We have PhD economists in our group. We can look at, any metric that you want to look at in terms of city budget. But I don't believe that that's part of our assignment in this project.
Okay, because the RFP, in my mind, was extremely broad. And didn't say exactly what the goals were.
It was pretty broad, and so I'm
Yes.
trying to sort of interpolate what I think is,
Right.
So I'm actually trying to be pretty broad in my response and say that I'm willing to work, our team is willing to work for you over the next, whatever it is, 2 to 3 months, to be facilitators to flush out the things that are important and try to help set a direction.
Right, because we've set a very quick turnaround on it. We've set what is quite a low budget. And we also have the fact that we spent a year on resiliency, and we have so much data there.
Right.
Would you be spending a lot of time reviewing that data and what people looked for, and how that would fit into your strategic goals?
Yes, I think that one of the first things that we would do is collect, through staff, collect the documents that are most relevant to where the city is today, and just understand where we are today. So I think certainly the resiliency outcomes, we are continuing service planning consultant to the city right now, and we are providing peer review services. That's what this little quote here in blue is about. One of your neighborhood advocacy groups got a chance to interact with some of our folks recently about the comp plan, and that was positive. So we have a context for things that are going on. We'd want to get the right library of documents in front of us, review those with staff, and then we need to get moving.
The last thing I'd like you to comment on, because we don't want to go on forever on this,
Sure.
is one of the problems that I've seen is with all the developments that were approved in the past and are being built and have been being built over the last 10 years. So we have a sizable, relatively new population out west of 95.
Right.
And that population is associated more with Port Orange. They get
Sure.
their services there,
Okay.
and it's easier for them, it's closer.
Sure.
To start with. Would you address issues like that if they were brought up? How to bring them more into the city?
Well, I think that as we craft the engagement here, we have to make, and this goes to my last photo of the chairs, I think that we have to find ways of making sure that everybody in the community is aware of the project, that we keep the message pretty simple, that we keep it very upbeat and positive about the input that we want. And this is why I particularly think sort of the sort of game event type of thing where you can come in, you can provide very easy input. You don't have to slog through, a 3-hour meeting, 2 weeks before the holidays, and all of that. What we want is we want to reach people digitally, and we will work with the city on that through SurveyMonkey and other things that we can deploy digitally. But we want people to come to us and be able to interface with us very quickly and very effectively and feel like this is an open door type of thing and they're not having to sit in a room for 3 hours and listen to someone talk at them. I think this is not the platform for that.
Well, I agree completely with that because we've had the resiliency already.
Yes.
And we have a lot of data there already.
Yep.
And I do like your idea of that, but, take this meeting. Not too much public is out there. Take our budget hearings, not too much public.
Sure.
Everybody talks about those things, but they don't always participate.
Sure.
So,
Okay.
those are my comments.
Sure.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
So I had just a couple of things, and we'll make one last pass if anybody else has thought of anything else for this consultant. So to me, you nailed it. I mean, the RFP was broad, or RFQ, whatever it was, and your presentation sufficiently broad, because really, I think we're trying to kind of even target in on exactly what it is and what strategic planning means. And I will tell you from me, I guess, and what strategic planning means. And I will tell you from me, I guess, let me just speak for me. I think we need two things. One is kind of broad, and then one is actually a little bit narrow. One is just kind of that long-term vision. So when we think about, I think there's some disconnect that we're hearing in the community between what's happening and what the community thinks should be happening, what their vision for certain areas were, and then what's happening in those areas. So being able to just kind of reset the stage and almost that educational component of the layers of charter, LDR, code ordinance, and why certain things are allowed where they are. Just some of that kind of visioning session, but laid out in a way that connects, not laid out in a way that is, you can find that if you can go marry the comp plan with the LDR, you can look at that parcel and figure out what it's zoned for. That's not going to fly. Like what we need, to me, is something that's a bit more comprehensive, easy to understand, easy to visualize. So I don't know that all that's in scope. I just want to throw that out there. But that's one component that I think we're missing that would, to me, probably factor more into that strategic planning component. Sure. If I think of what strategic planning means in other worlds. Then there's the one, and this kind of ties back to what I handed out. What I'm looking for, and I think we could bring great value from, is creating these KPIs, these measurements of how do we measure success? How can we stand here in front of a community year after year after year and tell them definitively we're holding the line here, we're doing better here, and we're making up ground here. Sure. on actual things. And so I think that Winter Park is this is the best example of it that I've seen so far. I'm sure other cities have done other things, but being able to take quantifiable measures and say, here's the percent of, the total response time at the 90th percentile for fire. Our goal is X, and here's how we've performed quarter after quarter after quarter. That's the kind of element. Tie it in with the appropriate mission and vision statements and what those buckets are of quality of life, public safety. There's a few key buckets. Economic development. We say we want to support economic development. We've got an economic development board, but how can I define this year that we're doing better than we were last year at economic development? Right now, I'm kind of grasping at straws to be able to define that, other than just by really broad metrics of tax base. Right. So that's where I'm trying to drive this engagement, and it may. That may be off base with the rest of the commission, because this is the first chance we've really had to kind of vet through that as well. So I guess having said that, And the last thing I was going to say is, to Commissioner Colodey's point, I absolutely agree some of those other benchmarking things are relevant on number of staff. Do we have the right size planning department? Do we have the right size, purchasing department for a city of our complexity, scale, size, budget, et cetera? That to me is more of a business analysis function that I think we could probably even do in-house. We've got the data. We're part of the benchmarking consortium. They actually had their annual conference at the Brandon Center. So I think we've got enough data that we can start looking at that internally. We probably don't need to bring in external counsel on that. So having said all of that, I guess my question for you, from a deliverable standpoint, you look up and you're walking away, you're making your final pitch. Has what I just described aligned from a deliverable standpoint with what you think you have the expertise, the qualifications, and the time and budget to deliver on?
The time and budget is tight, but we're prepared to meet it. And I want to just say that, I think part of the issue for us is that we value this relationship, and we want to continue to be facilitators of the community moving forward. I think getting a little bit of time on the back end after the holidays is helpful because it gives us a little bit more time to process the product and get it to something that's really usable. But I want to let Laura talk just for a moment to the things that you said about sort of the measures.
Yeah.
Laura's a little bit of a unicorn in the sense that she started her career with, amongst other things, City of Winter Garden in the planning department and with the CRA, comp planning, the whole shebang with Winter Garden. And then eventually came to our firm about 4 years ago and jumped into our economics group, which is led by a lot of very, very senior people with lots of letters after their names and all those things. But she has been learning and learning and learning about the linkage between planning and economic and demographic analysis, and then to even put more sort of context to her understanding of local government. Her husband's a firefighter, so she understands public services and how that all fits into the mix.
Yeah.
So if you want to talk just for a moment about some of the analytic products that you've created.
And while she's coming, just two things real quick. A time check. We've probably got about 5 more minutes, and I'll try to not take all 5 of them. But on the timing, though, I was going to make one other comment. To me, this could build up to that December 14th meeting isn't when this has to all be complete. To me, it's when we've hopefully had a few meetings to help drive some engagement and some good conversation among us and the city staff of, what are those metrics that we might want to be looking at, what is the direction we might want to head, and then there's time to deliver kind of after that. So, sorry, Laura.
Oh, thank you. So when we look at performance indicators, one of the things that we've really found is most informative is whenever we can find maybe comparable jurisdictions that are similar in terms of size, tax base, population, and then find ways so that you can actually look at whether your trend line is similar to theirs. And when we're picking those key performance indicators, it's not necessarily going to be based on the whole of what your overall tax base is, or what your, gross revenues are, what your response times are on average. We may be looking more at an average on a per person basis or a per square mile basis and things like that. It's not necessarily always just the big number.
Right, yeah.
And so when you're talking about, did our tax base go up or did it go down? Whereas, can we just track that and trend that over time? That's beneficial as a broad view of how your city's performing, but getting down to things like, do you have the right amount of staffing for your population? Do you have the right amount of firemen, or do you have the right response times? Are all of these things consistent with other jurisdictions that are similarly sized in a similar nature to you, meaning that, their revenues are similar, their tax base, and their overall geographical area? And that's one of the things we've performed for City of Orlando over the last, since I've been there 5 years, so I've been doing it for 5 years. Prior to that, we've been doing it for them since 2011, is benchmarking them against other large metros. And not necessarily their city as a whole, but specifically their downtown core and the jurisdictions that make that up, helping them understand, how do we compare to a city like Jacksonville in their downtown core? What's the occupancy looking like? How much space are they absorbing over time? What are the rental rates that are being achieved? Because something as simple as vacancy may seem like, oh, great, we're really high occupancy. But is that a reflection of having lower rental rates, or is that a reflection of there being a shortage of space? So we start looking at other metrics like that so that we can really paint a more comprehensive picture for you.
Yeah.
And I
Excellent.
think that's probably more beneficial in terms of indicators.
Yeah. So I want to just run back to the commission real quick. I got about maybe 2 minutes left. If anybody has any closing comments, thoughts, questions,
Yeah, I do.
briefly. You do? Yeah, go ahead.
Thank you, Pete. I think what has been said by both Commissioner Colodi and the mayor, I agree with. What we've done a lot of is broad planning, looking at things from a broad sense, all the resiliency information. The connection I need to make in the community is when people say, you're not doing this, but we
Right.
have done it.
Right.
And I think what the mayor's talking about is having the measurables.
Yeah.
What we can say we've done. Look, this
Right.
is what this is, this
Right.
is what that is. So I agree with what both of them have said, and that's the direction I want to move in.
Mm-hmm.
My concern was our RFQ or RFP clear enough? Or because I'm kind of looking at you guys and you kind of got the deer in headlights look like, oh, wow, because we may, and that's okay, because we can fix this. But I want to
Sure.
make sure that we haven't thrown you a curveball and you guys are like, yeah, we could do that.
Well, a curveball's not as hard as a knuckleball. Somewhere between a curve and a slider. I think if I was to just close with a message is that I go back to the 30-some people that are in our group. We have got a lot of resources. When I look at this document, one of the senior people in our economics group is Dr. Owen Beitch, who's also a longtime professor in the planning department at UCF. Owen has sat on the City of Winter Park P&Z board and various other boards for 20 years, and I bet he knows every line in this document and why and how it got there. I have glanced through this document before, but I haven't read it in detail, and when you talk about a curveball, it wasn't completely clear to me that this was the level of specificity that you want. But when I look at this, there's nothing about this that puts me in a position where, like, we can't deliver this. We can absolutely, if this type of document where we are setting up benchmark measurables for your community performance against, quality of life goals, economic goals, service quality goals, economic development goals, if that's where you want to go, we absolutely have the people to articulate that and deliver it, because we're doing it for other communities.
Well, let me say yes, exactly. From your mouth, exactly, that's what I want to accomplish with these things.
Okay?
I think that's where two of the other commissioners were, but let me not speak for them. Yes.
Okay, good.
Okay.
Good thing you were here. Where's Owen?
All right, so we're
Okay.
gonna close it there, just out of fairness to the others, so
Yep.
we make sure we got enough time. So thank you both for being here. And again, we'll be talking about this at the next meeting. I don't remember where it's at in the agenda, but if you want to stick around for that, you're welcome to.
Perfect, thank you.
Thank you. Is someone grabbing the other group?
While we're waiting, Mayor, I just wanted to point out
Lisa's gonna go talk.
on this document
Yes.
that the EMS cardiac patient resuscitation rate has dropped dramatically since I left.
I keep forgetting you were in Winter Park. That's funny.
From 40 to 25, that's significant.
Yeah. I see. Hello.
Good evening.
Good evening.
How are you?
I'm well, thank you. So, brief overview, same thing I kind of gave to the other group. From a timing standpoint, trying to give you roughly 30 minutes. We got a little bit of a late start, so we're running just a skosh behind, but we're going to try to give you till about maybe 5 or 10 after 6 o'clock. If you can, keep your presentation 10 or 15 minutes, leave us some time to kind of dialogue and chat with you, that'd be great, but whatever you choose to do is your decision. Yeah, I think that was it for precursor notes. So thank you all for being here.
Thank you. First of all, not only a thank you, but appreciate the opportunity to be here, because the exercise you're going through of choosing a firm to help you create a strategic vision and a plan, it's a healthy process and it's a healthy dialogue. So I commend you, because not all cities actually take that approach.
Thank you.
We have an extremely limited period of time, And when we introduce ourselves, and/or we introduce our approach, or we introduce our team, and we only have a limited amount of time to do it, we assume that you've read our proposal. We assume that you've, understood the background of our firm and our technical capabilities. We hope that you understand on the surface what our approach is. What we try to do is give you enough depth of how we go about viewing what we think you're trying to do, that you can decide the kind of firm that you want to hire, because we don't take a standardized approach to these types of processes. I'll give you examples. I'll talk you through what I mean by that, but really what I'd like to do is take the time to explain how we think about vision processes. What we're not going to do is talk about the process itself. All firms, and you have a very good qualified firm that proposed before us. We do this for a living. We meet a lot of them in these kind of environments. Everybody's going to do a SWOT analysis. Everybody's going to give you metrics. Everyone is going to go do public input and community forums. How they do that and all those nuances of that, those are all fairly standard. Those are things that are going to be part of the process from beginning to end, but there's really two parts of this, and as you go through that process, that I'd like you to consider. One is all of those processes are going to result in some kind of a goal and some kind of a metric and some kind of an action item. That's standard. But how you do that in terms of an operational approach versus an aspirational approach of a 10-year vision where you're going to be is handled very, very differently. And let's start with who you are and your brand. So again, not to reiterate this, you know your city, you know where you are. Your foundation of your vision plan is going to be as strong as you're able to explain who you are, what your brand is, and where you want to go to. The pieces of your brand are already in place. So obviously this vision plan is going to have pieces about historic preservation in it. It's going to have commercial mobility. And again, you're going to have the SWOT analysis, you're going to have the goals, you're going to have metrics, all of your streetscapes, all of your land zoning regulations. All of those are standard in your process of creating a vision plan. You already have sustainability and resilience goals. You already have plans. You have plans after plans. You already have business recruitment plans. You have business development plans. You have economic plans. Let's assume, and let's not go repeat that, let's assume that all of those things exist. I want to go another layer down. So some of our clients have cultural assets. You're one of them. You have actually a wide array of them. You like them. You're inspired by them. You have a lot of promotional materials about them. But here's an example, and again, back to the metrics. Let's just assume that each one of these is going to have some measure to it. Some cities, and I'll give you an example of one of them, that was able to take that base cultural processes that they had and their base assets, and they were able to delve down and go that next step. The city of Dania Beach was one of our clients, and they didn't have a whole lot of other assets and cultures, but they were able to take their culinary aspect and turn it into an incubator and something called the Patch. That Patch has been recognized nationally as one of the biggest culinary processors of building culinary arts in that district. Another one that went another layer was the city of Oakland Park. Here's a city, some of you might know it's down in Broward County. It didn't have any assets, no beach, no hospitals to bring in business that way, no courtrooms, no courthouses. They didn't have any assets, but they honed in on the few things, and we found those culinary assets that they did have. They had catering companies, they had kitchen companies, they had Allied Kitchen and Bath, they had two well-known culinary arts schools, and suddenly we said, if you were to take this one aspect of your city and turn it into a district and build on it, you will be able to build on that brand. They not only attracted Funky Buddha, many of you see that beer now all over the place. Funky Buddha was nowhere 7, 8 years ago. This process, that culinary district brand, and that whole process in its entirety built Funky Buddha up to where it is, to the point where it was able to be sold off. So what I'm suggesting is, as we go through this process, if you want to have a 10-year vision and a 10-year brand, the real successful cities are able to look ahead, and they're able to really get their arms around those things that are important to you, that are your brand. In summary, again, I think what I'd like you to do in terms of a vision, if we're going to talk about where you'd go in your process, is if you think back 10 years ago, and the things that you were doing or the things you had or you used versus the things you have and use now, they're very different. And here's an example. If you look at your phones and the kind of phone you owned, or you look at how you got around in a taxi, maybe back then there was no Uber, maybe use some other form. There was retail, but it was quite different today. And then obviously, there's also where you stayed. Today, in 10 short years, and if you look at the lifespan of that little window, if we're going to create a vision plan that's 10 years from now, we can't just look at where you are today. We can't just look at your resiliency issues or your business attraction issues or the things that you want to do today. We have to try to look ahead and say, what is this city going to use as a foundation to build on to take those really forward-thinking, visionary type things that you can build them into your plan. That's what will set you apart as a city. That's what vision plans are about. They're not about recranking out goals and tasks and assignments. They're really about how do you look forward and use the assets you already have and build on them. One of the biggest disruptors has to do obviously with driving vehicles. You know your planning department's already talking about it, or you might have already had discussions about garages and how are we going to build them. What does that mean to your LDRs and your zonings? But that's the kind of approach that we take when we're asked to do a vision plan that's 10 years out, not one that just regurgitates those same metrics or not only just metrics, but what are those goals? So we try to pull out of the public process, we try to pull out of you as the elected leaders guiding this process, and we pull out of the staff, let's think ahead. What's going to be here and what really isn't going to be here? And two quick examples of things that we've done recently for clients. One of them did have tourism as a goal. Tourists, obviously, it's a billion-dollar industry. We've all traveled. You all know cities and brands. In fact, if I was to say New York versus Charleston versus Winter Haven, you all can conjure up in your mind that brand. You know that city. You know what it's like to be a tourist in that city. Well, what kind of investment tourism, if we're going to broaden that scope, what kind of investment tourism can play into the new discussion of tourism? Why just bring tourists to a location simply to stay in your hotels, eat in the restaurants? We have launched this investment tourism process and strategy to the point where it's actually now starting to have economic and fiscal results. That's new. That's what I mean. A few years ago, we weren't just looking at tourism. We were digging deeper for our client and saying, what can we do if tourism is important to you? What can we do to stay ahead of the pack? How can we take our client, our city, and stay ahead of where we want to go with that goal? So again, our approach isn't to get so caught up in the goals. And if you were to say, for this very broad scope you have with a limited budget, it is making sure that you are taking those really important high-level topics and at least being visionary that 10 years from now when you review the plan, you say, boy, that didn't get outdated in 2 years. We were in front of the pack. Another one, and for limited time, I can't talk through this too much, but another example is your real estate industry and how investors are buying. Investors aren't buying properties the same way. They're not closing on documents the same way. They're not financing real estate transactions the same way. Everything about the real estate industry is changing before our eyes. We're very familiar with what they're doing and how they're doing it. And again, when we look at your business attraction or we look at your economic development department and plans, we're going to dig deeper and we're going to try to say, let's look 10 years from now and let's really make sure that we understand where you want to go, but that you're incorporating a long-term strategy with it. You did talk a lot, quite a few times in the RFP about measuring success. Metrics are great. They're necessary. They're very important. You also said in this document that we just got about Winter Park, and by the way, Winter Park is a client of ours. We've worked with them for many years. Fantastic city. And we've helped guide and build some of that structure, is not everything can be counted, and not everything is quantifiable, and some things we don't even know about, because we're sitting here today, we're 5, 7, 8, 10 years out, there's going to be things that aren't going to end up on our metrics, but we have to be able to turn on a dime to see them. So our version of measuring and how we do it might be a little bit different than your standard numbers. They're obviously important, but we're asking you to think broader and beyond your typical standard measurements. To close and to give you some time to talk to us and ask questions, my business partner, Chris Brown, he's largely known and credited for the city of Delray Beach. I'm sure all of you are familiar with that city down in Palm Beach County, which is probably one of the most successful redevelopment stories in the state, if not even beyond. And really what we started to notice is that there were certain things that made some cities incredibly successful. You all know them. You travel to them. You're gravitating to cities over and over because they have something in them that others don't have. We think all cities are great, but some of them are really special. And we started noticing, it didn't matter if it was in the state of Florida, if it was in the United States, or if it was international, there was some similarities with these cities that were really great. So we wanted to try to find out what it was. We started traveling around. We started meeting with the mayors. We met with the staff over, let's say, a decade or two that had been there building these cities. And we interviewed and interviewed and interviewed until we built it down to core things that these cities did that made them different. And then we ended up putting it in a book. We called it Reinventing Your City. So our not only approach to this type initiative, our approach in general to our clients is, what are those things that cities nationally and internationally have done that are so consistently similar and different, or obvious, but they did them, that made them great? That's an approach, again, that we think is very important. I don't have 30 minutes. I can't tell you the whole story, but we can give you a copy of the book for your records if you want.
We'll buy the book, yeah.
You can buy the book. So obviously, again, all the teams are going to talk to you about vision and leadership, et cetera, et cetera. We do have our Central Florida team here. Both Lynn Dellinger and Adrian Esteban are both of our very, very strong team members. They are local. We are based in Pompano Beach, Florida, but again, we're all over the state of Florida. And I think one of the things that we do is we try to hire top-notch individuals that not only have that same philosophy and approach that we do, but that are accessible and available. So with that, I will entertain any questions and invite my team members. So with that, I will entertain any questions and invite my team members also if they may answer specific questions better than I.
Absolutely. Thank you. Great, great presentation. And I will try to remember the name of that book and pick that up. So we'll lead it off with any questions from the commission. Quick time check. We got about 15 minutes or so. So, Vice Mayor, any questions? No. Commissioner Sachs, any questions at this time?
Yes, if you don't mind.
Is that mic?
Yes, the mic. We are familiar with Pete's work. We had a very good visioning session. I'm curious to know what your strength is. Where can you guide cities? In particular, my cause is our weakness. Unfortunately, that's kind of a deleterious thing, but that's what concerns me the most. As we grow, how can we address our weaknesses to achieve the balance and charm, quality that we have already? Are these something that are measurable things that equate to quality of life? Would you be looking at those? And can you guide us from 30,000 feet to say, here's a weakness there, here's a shortcoming there? That's what I'm looking for as guidance to assist our own planning department in directing us to a favorable city in the future.
Let me see if I can create kind of a simile of a visual for you of how we would approach that and what I think is just vitally important to a city. And let's use building or constructing a house as an example. If this city were to be a house, you'd have to build it right and to do good growth and to make sure that it stays standing and the foundation's there. You'd have to know what you're building. Are you building a single-family ranch house? Are you building a McMansion that's 3 stories, 5,000 square feet? Are you going to build a house with a mother-in-law suite in the back? It's all going to be very, very vitally important for you all as elected officials, for your guiding regulatory documents to follow that, and for staff to know what you're building. Because you'll end up in the quagmire and go into that spin over good growth versus bad growth for many, many years. You'll argue on the dais. Citizens will stand up and say, I hate that. Others will say, I love it. But if you can capture the essence of, in general, what it is that you want to build, what you want to be, and you structure everything from that, it makes it a lot easier to maintain that vision and get good growth. Otherwise, you're constantly in that turnaround spot of what is the best zoning. So we spend a lot of time on that. Actually, the very first chapter of our book is the vision. And it's that. You can't build anything on a foundation that's solid if you don't have that part.
I appreciate you brought up these larger cities down South Florida that I'm somewhat familiar with, and they've made major strides in their quality of life, regenerating old neighborhoods that are run down, crime-ridden, to really hubs of culture and thriving people sitting outdoors at night, enjoying the evenings, that type of thing that I would like to see here, but on a smaller scale. So if you can give us that direction, I would appreciate that as well.
We do. We have quite a few smaller cities. In fact, I mean, everything, that even in the vicinity. We have very small cities, and then we have the larger cities. Some of those concepts, though, again, back to that process and that approach, you'd be surprised how consistent it is.
Thank you.
Commissioner Colodi.
Your approach is markedly different from the other firm. A couple questions I have. We're going to go through our change in our land development regulations and our comp plan next year. How much of your strategic planning will lead towards that and make recommendations towards that?
That's a good question again.
Will that component be, see, I found the RFP to be extremely broad. So how would that work? Would that provide us some benefits?
The short answer is yes. I can go back to the house analogy. You, I hope, would spend an adequate and a good amount of time making sure that you know exactly where you want to go. Your LDRs, your regulations, everything, your design guidelines, your complete street design, everything falls out of that. I think, and I'm sure, I'm not sure how the other firm addressed it, but I'm sure no one expects out of this initiative for us to do the LDRs or identify exactly what's changing. But clearly with this broad approach, if you lay the right foundation and you know where you're going, the components of the LDRs that don't match and the comp plan irregularities and the zoning issues, they'll be obvious as you go through that process. You'll see them because you know what matches and doesn't match where you're trying to go.
Okay, we spent a lot of time last year on a resiliency program, tremendous public participation, a lot of information. Will you be using a lot of that information, or will you attempt to regenerate much more public input?
No, we're not going to repeat what you've done.
Good.
We would not repeat it.
Okay, but you would use it.
Yes.
Now, will any of your recommendations go towards our in-house operations, such as budgeting, staffing, or planning?
It's the 4th chapter of the book.
Okay. I haven't read the book yet.
I know.
Okay. One of the concerns I have about your presentation is it was, seemed to me like it was trying to make New Smyrna a better place to go for people who don't live here. And a marketing type of plan. I'm much more concerned with the people who live here because with the growth we've had some really demographic changes, physical changes. An example I did give is we now have about 6,000 new homes coming west of 95. I don't believe, from my discussions with people, from their physical location and what they do, they're not really considering themselves as New Smyrna residents. They gravitate more towards Port Orange and the services and everything that's up there. Will you address issues such as that, as to how to pull them back into the community?
The short answer is yes.
Always.
I don't think, if I said it, I didn't mean to take the conversation that way. I don't think in any of our discussions we're ever hyper-focused on who's currently living here versus who's coming here, because over 10 years, new people are going to come. It isn't that they're going to come. It's do they know where you're going? And obviously, the people that are already here, if they're gravitating away from you and going to other cities or getting goods and services or working elsewhere, we do all those analytics. We're going to know who's coming in here from outside and working, and we're going to know who's living here and working outside. Those are easy metrics. You just push buttons and you get that info anymore. It's really, what do you do with it then? But that's all set on what do you want to do? How much are you going to try to grow from within, and what are you going to do with that population? That's all part of that visioning process.
That's what I would like to see it focused on. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Okay. So my comments, and I said the same to the other group, there's really kind of two components I see. And when you think of strategic planning, it's different in the city space to me than it is in and where I've seen it in other places, but there's this element of the long-term vision, which actually I think you've kind of really focused on and hit. And then there's this other layer of kind of which is related to what I handed to you, where I'm kind of focused is, and I'll admit right off the top, I think the RFQ is a bit, we probably didn't give great direction on that RFQ, so that's on us. But we're gonna go with what we've got. So the KPIs and the metrics. So how do we quantitatively tell a citizen and I get that everything can't be measured. The Winter Park plan clearly calls that out. But how do we say we're up here fighting for economic development, or we're fighting for, protecting quality of life or improving quality of life. How can we measure that? How can we definitively say, hey, by this metric, we can say that's better? And I give you one example of, I was on a Facebook thread the other day, and somebody posted about crime, and they're saying, "Oh, crime in our city is just so much worse." And I said, "Well, hey, we just had a presentation that said our crime stats are fantastic compared to comparable cities, and even year-over-year trends. The difference is that nowadays every crime is posted on Facebook, and it gets 100,000 comments." So I came back and I was able to post that because we just had that presentation. That is a data point that we had, but that kind of narrative to help combat some of these other things in other places. So tree canopy, I mean, one of the things that Winter Park talks about, tree canopy, parks per capita, those kind of measurements. So I think we need both. There's probably a discussion we'll have in our next meeting might be, chicken and egg. Which one do we want to tackle first? Because I see two clearly different things. This is more of that high level, what do we want 44 to look like? How do we want to inform our comp plan, our potential LDRs? And then there's some of that others kind of operational stuff that I think is important. So no real comment on that. Just wanted you to kind of get have an idea of kind of where my head was at. I guess my question for you, though, would be, let me put it this way, that second point, those KPIs, the things like I handed you shortly before the meeting with Winter Park, is that something is that a chapter in the book? Do you have experience in that space? Do you go to that layer of detail, or where are you at on that?
Oh, yeah. And again, most firms that do visioning or planning or whatever, we're going to be able to do analytics, and we're going to pull the different metrics out. You build the metric depending on what it is you're doing and trying to measure. That's a given. So let's just assume that there will be measurements. If we're measuring something for a parks department, and you, through this process, create a certain goal and emphasis on that, the measurement is built around that particular goal. What I think you brought up, though, that's vitally important in many cities, in fact, here's a statistic for you, one of the largest issues that cities are facing today, mayors and managers including, is the ability to communicate what's really happening, because social media is getting in front of everybody. And there's a perfect example of this story. Cities aren't keeping up. And then the law department sometimes will come and say, well, you can't be, bless you, you can't be on Facebook. You're not allowed to do that because you got the public records laws. You can't do that. You can't get on Nextdoor. There's all of these issues associated with it. That's almost my good example of the things that cities are going to have to be able to become a little bit more pliable and flexible in terms of their ability to communicate. Doing all those wonderful things and having a lower crime rate than that's perceived to be doesn't help. It's a real problem, and it has to be solved with some form of a communication approach. That's got to be in that plan.
Okay. For those just joining, we're wrapping up another meeting, and then we're going to go to a regular scheduled meeting, so you didn't miss the whole meeting. Any closing comments or questions by the commission? Closing comments or questions the last few minutes?
No,
Good.
thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you all. We really appreciate the time today. This is a public meeting, so any public participation, to be clear, though, this is just on this element that we just kind of talked about. The public participation for the regularly scheduled commission meeting is at the next meeting that starts at 6:30. Any public participation for this meeting on this topic? Seeing none, we'll close public participation, and no other business at this meeting. We'll adjourn. Meet back at